Tēnā koutou katoa, ko ahu te komihana matatapu, ko Micah Webster aho. I'm Micah Webster, Privacy Commissioner, and welcome to Privacy Week 2025.
Kia ora koutou, I'm Liz MacPherson. I'm the Deputy Privacy Commissioner here at the Office of the Privacy Commissioner, and it's fantastic to have this opportunity to speak with you at the very beginning of Privacy Week 2025.
This year we've got a fantastic program of 21 webinars spread over the week from Monday to Friday. And it's fantastic. It's a great opportunity to hear from some of New Zealand's leading privacy practitioners, people who have such a great depth of knowledge about privacy, privacy regulation, how to do privacy well. And I'm really excited, Liz, for what people will be able to learn and find out and experience this coming week.
Absolutely.
Our theme this week is privacy on purpose. It's all about the need for businesses, for organisations to be purposeful with their privacy, to plan for doing privacy well, and then, of course, to action those plans, to make things happen, to bring about change in their organisations in relation to doing privacy well. Good privacy is, of course, all about building trust and confidence in your organisation, but of course it's also, for those in the private sector, good for business. Liz, we keep hearing in surveys again and again that people are more than ready to walk away from a business if it seems that it's not looking after their data, their personal information well. And so that's a really important factor for those who work in the private sector, who they're working with customers and consumers to keep doing privacy as well as they can. We're lucky this year to have a really interesting range of speakers on all sorts of topics. There are some of the ones that we've had in the past, like AI, biometrics, and children's privacy, but also this year there's some new topics. We've got one on the media, one on health sector ethics, and indeed also on local government. So a wide range, and there should be something for everybody there. Our webinars do have limited numbers, so please do sign up as soon as you can once you've identified the webinars that you're particularly interested in. And just a bit of housekeeping, this video that you're watching will be available on YouTube, so it can be viewed again. And my team here in the office has put together notes and links on everything we mention here. Liz and I will both be talking about some of the initiatives we have underway in the office, and we'll be linking to those through this YouTube video. So please do follow up on that. Any questions you might have, we have an email address, and that is privacyweek@privacy.org.nz. Now, as many of you will know, the Privacy Act gives the Privacy Commissioner the power to issue codes of practice that become part of the law of this country. These codes modify the operation of the Privacy Act and set rules for particular industries or organisations or even types of personal information. And one of our flagship projects here at the office that we've all been working very hard on is the work we're doing on a biometric processing code of practice. And this year, we'll be formally issuing that code. So that's quite a moment for the office.
Sure is.
The kaupapa is to allow for innovation in changing technological times while making sure that people's privacy is both protected and respected. The code is designed to help agencies implement this kind of technology while giving people confidence that it's being done both safely and fairly. One of the things my office wants to do is to help agencies really understand how to use and work within both the Privacy Act and these codes of practice. And so my team has written some incredibly useful guidance to help make the code real, so that organisations understand their obligations when they're considering using biometric technologies to collect and use personal information. And that guidance will go live alongside the code. It's been about 9 months since we launched our privacy toolkit, Poupou Matatapu. We wanted to help New Zealand businesses and organisations to do privacy well, didn't we, Liz? That was the driver behind this. And Poupou Matatapu sets out our expectations about what good privacy practice looks like and then helps you to get there.
Yeah, and I've been checking the latest stats, Michael, and I can tell you that the breach management is the bit that's used most out of Poupou Matatapu. And I'm really, really pleased that people are using that information to prepare for breaches when they happen.
Yeah. Now that is great to hear. Getting a fully tested incident response plan sorted out is vital for any and all organisations out there, Liz, I think.
I agree entirely. I mean, it's just like preparing for an earthquake or a fire, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
you have the breach management we talk about running a mock incident. Now, I know that can feel a bit odd when you're doing it, but being prepared is the most important thing. And taking a she'll be right attitude is just not going to cut it as far as we're concerned with respect to privacy breach management.
Yeah. And I mean, we all need to do everything we can to avoid a privacy breach, obviously, Liz. But we also need to be ready to react if, unfortunately, we do have one. Poupou Matatapu is a great toolkit for increasing privacy confidence across an organisation as well. It's something that all sorts of people within an organisation can use to upskill, to learn, and to prepare as best they can to be the kind of privacy respectful organisation that we wish that everybody could be. The toolkit itself includes some great examples of what businesses of various shapes and sizes could do and should do to prepare to be well set for privacy. And the way the guidance has been prepared is to really bring those examples to life for people, because after all, as we all know, privacy is fundamentally all about the rights of the people of Aotearoa, New Zealand. Time for some hot off the press news, Liz.
Yeah, I always love sharing some good privacy news, Michael.
Well, at the Office of the Privacy Commissioner, we recently decided to run our survey of what people are thinking and feeling about privacy every year instead of every 2 years.
I think it's really important. Privacy should be an important consideration for business, and well, all the time really, but especially during times of great technological change like we're seeing at the moment. And having an annual survey means that we get insights more regularly into the mood of the nation. It's real time, so it's great. Let's hear what their concerns are.
That's great. We're going to be releasing those survey results on Wednesday of this week, along with a media release. So both will be on our website, and please do have a look. It's a fascinating set of information about people's perceptions on various privacy issues.
What stuck out for you in the privacy survey?
A number of things. There's a particular focus on some technology questions that we asked in that space. People are more concerned about the impact of technology and digital innovation on their privacy. That's unsurprising, and we see that reflected in the stories in the media, the sorts of issues that come up with people when they talk to our office and have inquiries. A couple of other things, I think, Liz, is one about public concern about privacy. It does remain quite high. Just under half of those surveyed were concerned about their individual privacy. And over 80%, so that's a really high figure, over 80% wanted more say about how their personal information, their personal data is collected and used. Second, Liz, there were, as there have been in the past, some strong support for strengthening the Privacy Commissioner's powers under the Act to ensure that we can do our very best on behalf of the people of this country in terms of ensuring that organisations do privacy well. In fact, I think around 3/4 of survey respondents supported financial penalties for privacy breaches, including imposing significant fines for serious breaches and perhaps smaller infringement fines for less serious breaches of the Act.
Interestingly, around about the same number, just over 3/4 also supported the Privacy Commissioner having the power to go in and actually audit the privacy practices of businesses and government agencies, which is not something we have now, and interestingly, is well supported by surveys about why people might trust the use of AI, for example.
I think what that shows is that as an office, we have a number of functions and powers, and we exercise those on behalf of the people of New Zealand in accordance with the Act. But there is certainly, it seems to be, room for consideration to be given to giving us new functions and powers that will help us to a greater degree than at the moment protect and ensure people's privacy rights are respected.
And I think in an age of new technology like AI, where the person in the street, the consumer, can't actually tell what's going on behind the scenes and it's more difficult for them to enforce their own rights, having the Commissioner able to do that for them is something that people are looking for.
Sure. And certainly this matches, I guess, what we've been talking about within the office, Liz, and we will continue in the coming year to advocate for the modernisation of the framework within which we work, the legislation we work within, to ensure that as the world around us changes with digital innovation, with increasing use of technology, that we have the right set of functions and powers to do our job well.
Great.
Now something particularly for the privacy professionals out there. As you'll be aware, the Privacy Amendment Bill is currently before our Parliament, and it introduces a new privacy principle, which we call IPP3A, and that starts, the intent of Parliament is that it starts from 1 May 2026. So I guess it's about a year away, Liz. The bill's changes will mean that individuals would be notified when an agency collects their personal information indirectly through a third party, with some exceptions that are set out in the legislation. The changes will help individuals understand how their personal information is being collected and used, and enable them to exercise their rights that they have, for example, around checking the accuracy of that information, requesting copies of that information. We know that organisations out there are already starting to think about how this new legislative provision will impact them. We've had quite a lot of queries, haven't we, Liz, come through to the office?
Yeah, and lots of really positive feedback on it too.
Excellent. And as part of that, we want to support the privacy community out there to ensure that this new legislative provision, this new requirement, goes as smoothly as possible when it kicks off. So one of the things that our fantastic guidance team here has been working on is guidance around what this new obligation means and how to successfully work with it. That guidance is up on our website now, I think, Liz, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Excellent. And we will be asking for your feedback. I think you've got until near the end of June to provide that. We'd love to hear from people about whether they find that guidance useful. Tell us what you think. We're really keen to hear what the professionals out there who are going to be working with and advising around this new information privacy principle think of how we're trying to help them do that successfully. And I should say, a bit of a but wait, there's more. I think we have a session later in the week.
Absolutely, we do. Yeah.
We do?
Yeah.
Great. Our guidance team will be doing a separate webinar on IPP3A for those who want to hear more about it and hear more about the guidance that we've developed.
Yeah, I know Steph is really looking forward to that, and she's asked you, if you are coming to that session, and we hope you do, bring your questions, and what we're trying to do in this area, and you'll see it more and more from our guidance team, is look at the scenarios that you're thinking about, the things that are worrying you. Tell us what they are, and then we can build them into our guidance and make it as clear and as possible for you to do this well. That's the aim.
Excellent. And as I said, this legislation is still before the House, but we'll keep people updated through our website, Liz. So when the House finally passes it, we'll make that clear through our website.
That's right. And we've said on the website that if there's any changes, and we're not expecting them to because it's at the very, very final stage in the House, we would make some tweaks to the guidance on the basis of that.
Excellent.
So as you all know, we have the mandatory data breach reporting regime, and so we regularly have a look at the sorts of privacy breaches that are being reported to us. And the one that's most popular right now is unauthorised access and unauthorised sharing. So plain language, that's employee browsing and sending documents to the wrong places and not doing redactions properly too. So you're sending something to somebody, you're supposed to redact certain names and blank them out, and you don't. We've had some examples of that sort of thing in the media recently. If you're a privacy officer or a business owner, employee browsing would be a really great topic for you to build into some education around your organisation. And think about it from the point of view of not only is it people being a bit nosy and sneaking a look at things that they shouldn't look at, there are occasions where also you potentially have people within your organisation who are connected to people outside the organisation they shouldn't be feeding information to. So we've seen those sorts of things as well. Remember that some of your organisations are actually sitting on top of some very valuable information that could be quite valuable to people in, for example, organised crime. So you need to think about those sorts of things. We've, over time, stopped talking about these sorts of when something leaves an organisation without it being redacted properly as human error. We've stopped talking about it as being human error so much because we think as an organisation you should actually have in place some systems to keep your staff as safe as possible from those things that do tend to happen from time to time. So here's a hot tip about email. Something we use here at OPC is that we have a 2-minute delay, or we actually call it the 2-minute email jail, on our emails. So when we push send, they just sit in our outbox for 2 minutes before they're being sent. And it's just enough time to think, oh, heck, I should have done X, or did I send it to the right address, or did I actually remove that thing from that email that I shouldn't have had in it. So it's a really good safety tip. It allows you to just check, make sure the things are okay. So those are the sorts of things that we're talking about when we say, think about this as a system issue. Build in some checks and balances that keep your people safe. One more about privacy breaches, and this time it's about businesses that are splitting up. Often one business partner will leave to set up their own gig. This is particularly popular in GP clinics, but it also happens with lawyers and accountants and finance companies. And in the process of separating, these sort of things can take time, and there are often breaches where the information in the client database isn't split out properly. So somebody ends up with data that they shouldn't have, or the partner who is leaving takes a download of the whole client list with them and then uses it to poach people from their previous partner. So this is another type of privacy breach. We're suggesting that you look out for it. We're noticing it more and more in our privacy breach reporting at the moment. But basically, privacy breaches, just like people, are endlessly varied. And if you haven't already, go and have a look at Poupou Matatapu, our guide, our toolkit for doing privacy well. It's got really good examples, as we were saying earlier, on the key components that an organisation needs to have to keep the data that you're holding in trust for your clients, for citizens of New Zealand, safe.
And Liz, when I think about breaches, I know a number of those watching out there will be thinking about how breaches are bad for organisations. I understand that moment of terror that you might think when you suddenly discover that you've had a bad privacy breach. But actually, what we need to be thinking about is how terrible they are for the individuals who are affected. You and I have both heard stories about how people's lives have been damaged quite significantly through the release of personal information about them that they never wish to be seen by other people out there.
Absolutely. In fact, look, I mean, for you it might be, one email, the push of a button that means that a message is sent to the wrong person. But for that person that information is about, it could mean that they have to change their address to get away from somebody that they've been trying to avoid. It could mean that information that they weren't ready to share with the people they know and love gets put out there in the spotlight. It could mean that that they lose a job. So this is all very, very real for people. Some of the guidance we give to people when they're handling a privacy breach is, if you put the person at the other end, the impacted person at the heart of your response, you very seldom go wrong. So just think about it that way, and you'll find that your breach management goes a lot smoother. And also, when you call us, one of the first things we do is just say, breathe. Let's work through this together.
Kia ora.
Kia ora, privacy officer's name.
Liz, it sounds to me like you've used perhaps an AI tool to come up with that greeting.
I have, and you can always tell, can't you? And unfortunately, we are coming across this more and more in our investigations and dispute resolution team. So people are using AI to write their emails to us, their complaint emails. And it's often going quite wrong, mainly because AI tells them about laws that we don't regulate and often gives them expectations about outcomes that we just simply can't deliver on or are unlikely to happen. It hallucinates about privacy law in New Zealand and comes up with all sorts of weirdnesses. And unfortunately, it also slows things down.
So it's kind of ironic. We're an organisation that warns people about some of the privacy risks and some of the risks around using AI tools, and here we are being impacted in terms of the work we do. So what are we doing about that, Liz?
We've got some helpful tips on our website page. We've just put them up there. Basically, it's that using AI to write to us, it seems like something that's going to speed things up and make it easy to get the job done. It's just not. Primarily because the Privacy Act is about you as a person. It's about how it's impacted you. And when you make a complaint to us, we need to hear from you. We need to hear from you about the harm that you've experienced. So go to our website and use the guidance that's there. It'll take you to the parts of the website that help you understand how your harm connects with the particular privacy principles in the Privacy Act. So whether it's about accessing your information or whether it's about accuracy issues or variety of other things that you're concerned about. And then what we want you to do is tell us in your own words about the harm that you've experienced. And that will actually speed up the process for us. If AI is trying to tell us about harms, it just simply doesn't help us in the end. So have a look at our guidance and then tell us in your own words.
And thinking of guidance, if you look at AI, and I know there are undoubted benefits, productivity benefits, those sorts of things from the use of AI, as increasingly we see AI being used for all sorts of things and how we live, work and play, Liz, it becomes more and more important for people to be aware of the potential risks with the use of AI as well. And it might be useful for me to give a shout out to our guidance on our website about AI. In fact, when AI first burst onto the scene, this office went live very quickly with some guidance about how AI might impact on people's privacy rights. And we set out some expectations around the use of AI in privacy. And a few months after that, we followed that up with some more detailed guidance, Liz, didn't we, about, I guess, how AI might impact on each of the information privacy principles in the Privacy Act, about how AI might impact on the collection, the use, the management, the storage, the stewardship, and the retention of personal information. That guidance is still absolutely relevant today, and I would encourage you all, if you're working in an area for an organisation that exploring the use of AI or is already using AI, to make sure that your organisation's been through a real deep consideration, the kind of thing that you do as part of a privacy impact assessment around the use of that AI in terms of the Privacy Act provisions.
Absolutely. And I think There's been a survey that has been done by the University of Melbourne and KPMG. They've done it for the last 3 or 4 years. What that survey has said, in the most recent version has just come out, is that trust in AI use is really strongly linked to those guardrails, safeguards, good practices, and that individuals will not want to actually interact with an agency that uses AI unless they're really transparent about it and have good practices in place. So please use our guidance, and as we say on the website, we'll keep evolving it as things go along. So if there are questions that you have that relate to the use of AI and the Privacy Act, please let us know and we can continue to update that guidance.
Yeah. And I guess just reflecting on that too, thinking of the organisations that we deal with, I guess if the thinking about AI in your organisation is happening in the IT team, that's a thing, but actually thinking about the use of AI needs to happen at the top table. It needs to be an issue that comes before the board of directors for a private company. It needs to come before the chief executive and the senior management so they can consider it within the broader corporate strategy of their organisation to ensure it's not just seen as a technical tool, but is seen as something that has significant implications for all aspects of an organisation's functioning, including around the right to privacy.
Absolutely. Good governance is really important.
It's, I guess, becoming increasingly clear that organisations need to be confident that personal information is protected wherever it's being stored and whatever organisation is handling it. And at the end of November last year, my office issued guidance to help businesses and government agencies working with what we call third-party providers to understand their responsibilities in this space. And I guess the key thing to remember is that you remain responsible for personal information that you send to a third-party provider. You simply can't contract out of that responsibility.
It's something that, coming back to the discussion of privacy breaches, that we've seen increasingly, that an agency is actually, or a group of agencies are impacted by a third-party service provider who's providing services into that agency. For example, doing some data processing for them. That agency then gets hacked by a cyber hacker, and then you effectively have 4, 5, 12, 20 other agencies who are all impacted by that data breach. So if an agency is handling your data for you, it's processing that data for you, it's not doing anything in addition to that, it's doing something that you would do yourself with that data, and it's doing it for you, you are still liable and you still need to be taking precautions. So have a look at that guidance, because it gives you some practical tips about how you can ensure that in your procurement and in your contractual discussions with those third-party providers, you can build in some protections. Because if there is a breach, and it is of a third-party provider that you've contracted with, when my team come and talk to you, we'll want to know that you've actually got those checks and balances in place, and that you can provide us with the assurance that you had good safeguards, and that you had set things up so that you were able to understand what was going on if there was a breach.
Yep, and we know from the conversations that we have with privacy professionals out there, privacy officers and agencies, that they understand the sorts of things we're talking about, like software as a service providers, the use of cloud services, organisations that share employee pay information with third-party providers to provide the payroll services, those sorts of things. But I guess the question I have for those privacy professionals and the question they need to ask themselves is, to what extent is the rest of the organisation aware of this potential risk? Is it part of their risk management system? What might happen with the information that is provided to third-party providers?
One thing that I'm not sure that the top table would understand, for example, is that the contracting organisation is deemed to know what the third-party service provider knows. So as soon as that third-party service provider is aware that there's been a data breach, they need to be letting the primary agency know. So these are all these sorts of things that are tips and tricks that are in the guidance, and so I really do encourage people to have a look at it.
Yeah. And as organisational strategy advances, as big organisations potentially make more and more use of third-party providers, I think this is increasingly going to be an issue that people need to work through as part of making those strategic board-level decisions about the future shape and nature of their organisations and who they're subcontracting to do the business.
Absolutely. And of course, recently we saw the Public Service Commissioner, the GCDO, in fact, the Government Chief Digital Officer, releasing the information sharing standard for public sector agencies. And the focus of that was quite definitely on sharing information with third-party service providers and making sure that you've got the right protections in place. And the standard was designed to basically support and go above and beyond the Privacy Act. Cyber threats are continually evolving, and we've been talking during this video on AI. And I guess one of the things that is really powering up cyber threats these days is AI. In the past, when you had cyber threats, when you had denial of service type attacks where people were basically trying to take down websites, you had individuals sitting behind computers. They had to basically had a bunch of people doing this to try and take things down. These days, you can use AI to essentially power up your cyber attacks, and that is what's happening. We have cyber threats reported globally, every day, where very, very large companies are taken down through cyber threats that are usually getting in through, chinks in those agencies' armoury. One of the things that we have found over the last while that is increasing in scale is the use of compromised employee credentials. So where an employee's credentials have somehow made their way onto the web, where they've been accessed in some way, shape or form, and then the cyber attacker effectively uses those credentials to get inside the organisation, and then effectively use those credentials to give themselves more administrative credentials that allow them to essentially, in some cases, gives them the keys to the kingdom. They can find their way anywhere in an organisation. AI is powering this up it's essentially supercharging that cyber threat landscape. It's now possible, for example, to buy off the web software that allows you to basically take point and shoot at a website and try and take it down with denial of service type prompts. So in this sort of world, we couldn't leave you in Privacy Week without having an expert to talk to you about cyber threats. And last year, hands down, the most popular person in terms of our webinars was Jim Rush. He's a senior security consultant, and the good news is he's back. So if you want to get into this one, which is Thursday, 10 a.m, you need to register, and you need to register fast. Jim will be talking about privacy by design, how to bake privacy and security into thinking about building and creating software. We know from people's reaction to him last time round that his mix of deep technical expertise and a practical way of thinking about things is really powerful. So he'll be talking about the fact that the barriers to creating software are lower than ever before, but there are security practices that are overlooked or applied after the software has been completed. He'll be taking you through the technical dive into some of the fundamentals, but as always with Jim, he'll be making it really, really practical. He'll be covering off some real-world examples. I found it really useful last time when he really deep real-world examples about where design failures have resulted in less than ideal states within software and allowed for potential breaches. And he'll also cover off the concept of threat modelling. We talked before about, sort of mock breach scenarios. This is threat modelling and how it can be baked into the software development life cycle. So, as I said, you got to be in to win. If you want to listen to Jim Rush, you got to register. It'll be a great session, and I really encourage you to sign up.
Fantastic. And Liz, when I think about some of the breaches that you and I discuss, often as a result of cyber attacks, and we've had some huge ones, both here but also across the Tasman as well, between our two countries. There's something that occurs to me, and I guess it's the truism that can't be stolen if it's not there, right? Which brings into play that really interesting question of data minimization. Just as an example, if you need to cite, for example, identity documents to prove someone's identity before you provide a service to them, you need to cite them perhaps, but you don't need to then take a scan of them and put them on your files, do you?
No, not at all. And I think, it's data minimization isn't just about don't collect what you don't need. It's about don't store what you don't need. And, we found with things like Latitude Finance, for example, that, people's data about when they bought a fridge 20 years ago was still being stored, and that data was on the dark web. So we said at the time, retention is the sleeping giant of cybersecurity. You've really got to think about how much information you really need to retain, because if you're holding it, then you're vulnerable. So don't keep what you don't need.
So looking ahead, I know many of you will be wondering what are the priorities for the office in the coming year. And I guess in short, we're going to focus on three things, and they will make sense when you think about the sort of things that you and I have been talking about, Liz. The first is, of course, providing guidance and developing processes to support the implementation of legislative and regulatory privacy initiatives, the sorts of things, as I say, we've been talking about. Second is engaging with agencies to build their privacy capability. We're really keen to lift our engagement with agencies out there. And so anybody who wants to hear from us, drop us an email. Happy to talk. We're also very much focused on empowering New Zealanders to assert their privacy rights. At the end of the day, as we said earlier, privacy is all about the people, and we want to ensure that New Zealanders feel that they have a place to come to when they consider that their privacy rights have been harmed in some ways. And third is focusing our activities on the technological and digital innovations being adopted by organisations and businesses here in New Zealand. And in focusing on those areas, that would certainly see us picking up and delivering on the sorts of things that we've been talking about here today, Liz. The work around the implementation of the Privacy Amendment Bill, supporting the implementation of something known as the Consumer Data Right Initiative, providing the guidance to ensure that agencies can work effectively with the new Biometric Code of Practice, preparing and getting out their guidance and advice on how to do privacy well and to maintain that all-important citizen and customer trust and confidence, to provide advice on how to adopt and work effectively with new technologies and digital innovations while protecting people's privacy, while respecting people's privacy. It's not an either-or choice, it's very much an and. Very much an and. And of course, continuing conversations on improvements needed to be made to the privacy regulatory landscape. As we said earlier, we've made a number of positions clear in terms of reforms we'd like to see to the regulatory framework here in New Zealand, and we'll keep advocating on behalf of all New Zealanders for those changes to be given attention in the future. So I guess on top of carrying out a very full program of work in terms of our core business, we have a very full program of other priorities and other work for the year to come.